Hello, the shortlist for the Women's Prize for Fiction is going to be announced on April 26th, so I'm here to make some quick-fire predictions of which 6 novels I think the judges might choose. This is all just for fun. It's in no way authoritative because I've not actually read all of the books yet. I've read 10 out of the 16, which is pretty good going. I've been busy following this prize as well as the International Booker Prize, and I've mostly been alternating going back and forth between the prize lists and reading them, which has been really enjoyable, and I've been discovering some really great books. And also, I'm only just here on my own today. I'm not with my friend Anna James, as I usually am. Usually we'll make shortlist predictions together, but I had a drink with her the other night, and she's been really busy with work, and also very studiously she's gone to read David Copperfield's before starting Barbara Kingsolver's Demon Copperhead, which is really great, and she's completely immersed herself in it, but it's a very long book, and so obviously that's been taking even more time to get to this list. But she is really looking forward to following the short list, and I'm sure we'll be discussing the books more. So I think the judges are going to have a really difficult time whittling down these 16 books to just 6 books, because there are some really great choices here. So it was really difficult to only pick 6 books to predict, and I think it could well be any number of combinations of these books. I mean, I'd love to hear in the comments below if you've been reading along, if you have any strong favorites so far and things that you think will definitely be on the short list, or books that you've been wanting to read. So please let me know about that in the comments below. But I think I have made my choice of 6 books that I'd like to see on the short list. My first choice is going to be Glory by NoViolet Bulawayo, this novel set in the fictional African country of Jidada, and the story begins with an overthrow of the government and then follows it through a period of time of political turmoil as we get the many different voices of the citizens and groups of people in the country. Well, not people, but animals, because this novel is populated by animals rather than people. Actually, there's a number of talking animals books on this list, surprisingly. And I know there have been really mixed opinions about this novel, but I read it last summer and I was completely swept away by the voice and the story, which I found both poignant and meaningful and really intelligently done, how she captures all of these different opinions from people and why it's so difficult to come together as a society, especially if it's beginning at a point where think, well, we can start over, we can create a new government and finally have the country we want to have, and she shows just how difficult that is and why it's so difficult. Also, this has been nominated for quite a few prizes, including the Booker Prize last year and the recent Rathbones Folio Prize. It's kind of a prize darling, and I think it is for a reason, because she is such an incredible writer. And again, what beautiful insides of the cover. Fire Rush by Jacqueline Crooks. I am so glad that this novel was longlisted for the prize, because I hadn't heard about it. It had only just been published right before the long list was announced, and yeah, hadn't really heard about it. I think it probably would have passed me by if it hadn't been listed for the prize, and I was completely drawn into this story, this very powerful and original voice of a young Black woman in the late 70s and early 80s, beginning in London, and her going to clubs, getting involved with this whole musical movement and wanting to be a singer, and starting a new relationship, but then because of events, things are curtailed child, and following her story, I found so moving, and yeah, just this novel really struck me, and I think it's really powerful. There are certainly some elements of the plot and the story which didn't entirely work for me, but overall the originality of this novel and the strength of its message really came through. Trespasses by Louise Kennedy, another novel that's set a few decades ago, but this time in Northern Ireland during the Troubles, following the story of a woman named Cushla, who's a teacher. She also works part-time in her family pub. She begins an affair with a married man, but then political events start intervening in her life. And yeah, the way that this novel, now that I think about it, there's a lot of parallels between this and Fire Rush, but looking at very different political events in a very different context. But both books really handle wonderfully this balance between the personal and the political to tell this really meaningful story. And actually, that's in Glory too. Maybe this is just the kind of fiction that I gravitate towards, but I think it's so well done in this novel. Gives a view of the Troubles from a really different perspective, and the descriptive powers in this book of how she invokes this world and the impressions of this character, and also the emotion she shows in this, in how the children that she teaches are affected by the political issues in the country, is so powerful that yeah, I think this novel is an incredible debut. The Marriage Portrait by Maggie O'Farrell. You don't get much better than Maggie O'Farrell in terms of like descriptive powers in a historical novel, bringing this bygone era to life. And in here, she transports us to the 1500s in Italy, in this substantial palace of this very wealthy family, and a daughter who has very strong artistic abilities, but is kind of overlooked by all of her family until she's unexpectedly ushered into this marriage which her sister was supposed to make, and which puts her in a very perilous situation. And following her journey, her explorations in the palace, just felt like such an immersive, wonderful experience. I just enjoyed reading this novel so much. And another book with the really beautiful inside cover. Wandering Souls by Cecile Pinn. I just finished reading this novel last week, and it is so brilliant, an incredibly moving experience, and so well done. I instantly thought this is a top contender for the prize, and so well crafted for a debut novel. There are multiple narrative threads to this book, which is really difficult to do because it's quite a short book, but it all balances really well as it relates the story of a family that are migrating from Vietnam shortly after America pulled out of the Vietnam War, and following this family's journey and between these different siblings, focusing mostly on the eldest child of the family, their daughter named Anne, who has to take control of her family and take responsibility as tragic events occur, and it's so moving, but also parallel to her journey is that of one of her younger brothers who didn't survive the journey, and we follow his voice in the afterlife as he's following the journey of his siblings, but also exploring the meaning of the afterlife. And I think this can be quite difficult to do, to try to create this voice, from the afterlife, but I found it really meaningful, the way she instantly invoked his character at the very beginning of the novel, and that the sensation of that just really stuck with me. And I it's just how this novel conveys both the the meaning of their journey and their development, and both the sorrows and the joys. There are a number of like different joyous sections of this which are so heartwarming and wonderful to read, as well as that balancing obviously with a lot of tragedy which occurs, and how she shows again like how like larger political events sort of impacted these characters' personal lives, and how they're sort of caught up in this maelstrom of history, but also how the author herself sort of enters into this, or an authorial voice sort of enters into this and becomes a kind of character in the book as well, but in a way which is so powerful, and I was completely emotionally swept up in this story. And finally, my sixth choice, my sixth prediction, of course, is Demon Copperhead. This story has continued to stick with me, and I keep thinking about it, and I can't wait for Anna to finally read it, and then we can discuss it, hopefully have a long conversation about it. And I'm enjoying talking about this book with other readers as well, as they've started reading it and enjoying it. And although some readers have had issues with it as well, but the way she creates this story of a boy born in Appalachia who's mixed race and who's from a very impoverished background and a broken household, and following his story and development as he almost miraculously survives the circumstances which all seem built up against him, but he, through his like wit and intelligence and his sense of empathy, he's able to survive these circumstances and to tell his story when many other characters like him within this story aren't able to survive. And I think it is so emotional and so relevant and powerful, and an incredible work of fiction. So those are my 6 choices. I also would not be mad at all if any of these 3 novels make the shortlist. I really enjoyed reading all of them, especially the Bandit Queens. I think is so powerful and well done. The way she mixes the tragedy and comedy in this story to convey this very powerful message is so well done. Also Memphis, I really enjoyed, especially the descriptive power of this story of both the landscape and the food and the characters' connections with each other, especially the women in multiple generations of this family. Now Tara Stringfellow, she's been lashing out against some readers who have been critiquing her book online, and I don't approve of that at all. And it's kind of soured my my feelings towards the book, but I don't think you can. I think it's most of the time it's best to try to separate your feelings about the author from the actual book itself, and the book itself I did enjoy reading it. I'd also just finished reading The Dog of the North, again, which is a mostly a very comic book, a really wacky book, really wacky story of very eccentric characters and humorous situations, kind of absurdist type situations that this character who's kind of adrift gets into, and the people she encounters that are having all these issues of their own. And so I really enjoyed reading the Dog of the North as well. Now Cursed Bread, it was one of my most anticipated books from the long list, the one that I read first. I had quite a mixed experience reading this. I did really enjoy some aspects of the voice, but the conceit of the narrative and the story overall just didn't entirely work for me. And even though, again, it's a very short book, I found sections of it a bit of a slog. So that just leaves these 6 novels which I haven't read yet. I'm most anticipating, I'm a fan, and wouldn't at all be surprised if Sheena Patel's novel makes the shortlist, because it has been making so so many different prize lists. Most recently, it was just shortlisted for the Jalak Prize, I think. I know Anna read it and really enjoyed it, and so that makes me anticipate it even more. And other books on the list, I do want to read Homesick and Children of Paradise and Black Butterflies. I mean, I do want to read them all, but yeah, I'm probably going to prioritize I'm a Fan next. But those are my feelings about all of the 16 books. I'd love to know in the comments below if you've been reading any of the books from the long list, if you have any predictions of which 6 novels you think will be on the shortlist. I would love to hear about that in the comments below, or which of these books you're really anticipating reading. I'd love to discuss all of this with you. But I hope you're doing well and reading good things. I'll speak to you again soon. Bye-bye.